First aircraft is an F-18 at the 90. Stand clear to port catwalk and fire line. Stand by to recover aircraft. This is a drill. Go through the ages, been bravely given life. Will always break its word. No matter, we'll still follow this song. For freedom, the battle rages on.
Welcome, everybody. This is Caesar with the Battle Rhythm Podcast. Yet another Tuesday night. Today is Tuesday, June 10th. And as you know it, June is almost halfway through. And I cannot believe it. I just can't. So if you've forgotten already, this weekend, Sunday, it is Father's Day. I'm just kidding. It was. I knew what it was. It's Father's Day. But I was thinking about this. Did you know that Chick-fil-A is actually doing a great little thing for fathers this weekend? So they're actually going to be on June 15th. They're going to be giving out free chicken sandwiches. So make sure you go to Chick-fil-A on June 15th. If you're a father, tell them you're a father. Tell them the Battle Rhythm Podcast did not send you, and make sure that you do it. So tonight we have a great show for you tonight. We are going to be, as you guys know, I love military history, as shown before, because I have shown many times, and I still will do it again. The Tootsie Roll Man, which is a three-war veteran, Mr. Hahn, out of the VFW Post 2772 here in Sherman, Texas. So we are going to be actually talking to a former military member herself. Her name is Brenda Reinhart. She will be joining us here in a few minutes, and we will be talking military history and things of that nature, and we'll talk about her organization and what she does with that, because again, a lot of these stories, a lot of these things that happen in military history sometimes are kind of taken for granted and or forgotten and things of that nature. So we want to make sure we preserve those things. So we're going to be talking to her about that. So, but don't forget, this weekend is Father's Day. So if you've got anything, please go and buy your dad something. I don't expect anybody to buy me anything, because you know what I'm saying, it's just the way it is. But if you are looking for something and your dad is an enthusiast, please go to one of my other sponsors, Texoma Harley Davidson. Go see Kenny and tell him that we sent you. Tell him you heard about it from the Battle Rhythm Podcast. And they will hook you up with, t-shirts, obviously at a great price. So it'll be awesome to make sure that you support them, because they support this podcast here as well. So make sure you go visit them tonight, this week, and obviously this weekend they're going to have an awesome time with Busted Knuckles. They're a tour that comes down, and they do a bunch of stunts in the motorcycle. So make sure you come out and support them. It's going to be super fun. And then, from then on, it's going to be just a weekend. So, but I do have a question for everybody. So if you guys are on our social network right now, please come join us with your questions, and we'll answer those as we go throughout the show. So my question is, and maybe somebody can help me here, is that why is it that Father's Day, we as fathers have to go and actually barbecue, yet on Mother's Day we have to go out to breakfast? Please, somebody explain that to me. Please. A huge shout out to Patriot Radio, my other brother from another brother and mother. So hey, brother, happy Father's Day to you if it pertains to you. So obviously happy Father's Day, and thank you for being one of my sponsor stations here. So remember, we're coming to you live on Voice of the People, U.S.A. Radio and TV Network, BUC Digital, and Patriot Radio, who is actually out there. So listen to Maverick and Goose. He has a great show. Awesome. If you guys love the politics talk, Maverick has a great show. So make sure you listen to him on Patriot Radio, and also on very soon on here on Voice of the People Radio and TV Network. So all right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to bring in our guest, and she's going to go with us tonight through the National Day of, because today I mean, you guys already know that today I always do these and it's all super fun for me. I like doing it because people, I learned a bunch of other stuff that I never knew. And so make sure we do that. So we're going to bring in tonight, we're going to bring in our guest of the week and our interview of the week.
The Battle Ribbon Podcast Interview of the Week is brought to you by Consumer Harley Davidson. Stop by the Streamyard for all your Harley Davidson needs.
All right, everybody, this is Caesar again, and welcome, Brenda Reinhart. How are you, ma'am?
I am doing just fabulous. Good to be with you tonight.
We've been talking about doing this podcast for I don't know, over a year, and we finally were able to do it, right?
It's been a while. We've been talking about it for quite some time.
I know, and I'm like, I'm horrible. Sometimes like I forget certain things. If I don't write it down, I forget. And I know we had rescheduled you from May because what happened is the national commander from the BFW came out to see the show because they were also going to go out to the Denton Post, BFW 2205. And he went out there, and so I said, Brenda, I'm so sorry, I have to reschedule because the commander wants to come in and be on the podcast, and she graciously agreed, and so here we are now, a couple weeks later. So finally, we have you here. So thank you for being so patient with us, and thank you for coming back on and saying, you know what, this is worth it. This is gonna be super fun. So thank you, Brenda, for rescheduling with us, and I'm glad you're here with us tonight.
Yeah, not a problem. I think we're going to have a good night and a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll be able to tell the folks a few things about military history.
That's right. Here we go. So, but first of all, let's start out with, like I said, I always do these every show. We'll do the National Day of. Do you know what we're talking about here? National Day of. So I never knew some of these things. So, like, did you happen to know that today is the National Frosted Cookie Day?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and also National Forklift Safety Day. Oh man, some of these are kind of funny to me because I'm like, really, that exists? You know. So okay, so the other one is today's also do you like Chinese food?
I do.
Or even what's the other one? I think they have spring rolls and stuff like that.
Of course.
All right, so today is National Egg Roll Day.
Oh my goodness.
And also, if you eat too many of these egg rolls, you know what else today is also National Call Your Doctor Day.
Well, if you don't follow forklift safety rules, you may just end up calling your doctor, right?
Exactly. So today is also National Herbs and Spices Day. I don't understand this one, but it's National Black Cow Day.
Black cow.
Yeah. Yeah. I again, some of these make no sense to me, but I think they're still hilarious. All right.
That's right. Because a black cow is an Angus and a Longhorn is brown. So I don't know what this black cow thing is. I have no idea.
I don't know. I guess they're what's the word?
It's probably a brand of coffee and we just don't know it.
I would think so. That, or they have DEI in their society as well. And they identify exactly. I don't know. But today, as a true Southerner, if you're not a true Southerner, then this isn't this. I don't know what it is. But today is National Iced Tea Day. So I'm pretty sure that sweet tea is in this category as well because it's just tea. So
of course.
I bet you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Well, here we go. So let's check in what today is. Today is June 10th, and here's some of the June 10th birthdays and events. Okay, so speaking of which, Rebecca Felton. Have you ever heard of this name?
I don't think so.
Okay, well you will now. She was the first woman to serve in the U.S. Senate, and
really?
Yeah. But here's a caveat to that: she only served one day.
Oh,
Yeah.
why is that?
Yeah, so she was alive in between the years 1835 and 1930. Let's see. Cora Agnes Benison, 1851 to 1919. She was the first woman to practice law in New England.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. Oh, you might know this. Hattie McDaniel. Do you know that name sound familiar?
It does.
Okay.
But
So she was,
don't quiz me though.
oh, you need to bring your game up, okay? You do.
I know. I'm slipping.
I we're here. We're two history buffs, so we need to get our game up. So we can't
Exactly.
we cannot disappoint the people today. We just can't.
Right. Right.
All right. So Hattie McDaniel, she's born in 1893 and passed away in 1952. She's the actress best known for her role as Mamie in Gun with the Wind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Right? Okay, so Wilbur Cohen, 1913 to 1987. He was a pioneer of Social Security. How is that pioneer of Social Security? Did he invent Social Security, or was he like in Social Security for like 80 years? I just
Must have. I don't know. That's a good one.
Yes. William Rosenberg, 1916 to 2002. Are you a fan of have you ever heard that the coined phrase America runs on blank?
Yes, right.
So America runs on blank or
right.
Blank, Dunkin' Donuts. So William Rosenberg was the founder of Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
And also today is Judy Garland from 1922 to 1969. She was the actress, obviously, who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. The original.
And her ruby shoes.
Yes. Let's see who else. E.O. Wilson. I'm not sure who this is, but he's a scientist who is considered the founder of sociobiology. Was born. He almost lived to be 100, so he was 1929 to 2021. He just passed away not too long ago. Yeah. All right. So some memorable events that happened today in June 10th. In 1610, the first Dutch settlers arrived to colonize Manhattan Island.
Okay.
In 1639, the first log cabin is built in Fort Christina, Manhattan Island. Fort Christina in Wilmington, Delaware. In 1752, Ben Franklin tests the lightning conductor with his infamous kite flying experiment.
Oh, that was today. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that we didn't. There's a bunch of storms. You live around here, so you saw all the storms that we were having.
Our storm was only off by a couple of days. I mean, we had lots of lightning the other night. So
yeah, it was horrible. Okay, 1847, the Chicago Tribune is published for the first time.
Okay.
1854, the first set of U.S. students graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't know that.
My brother-in-law's ancestors helped found the Naval Academy.
Really? That's awesome. They're like what do you call plank owners?
Yeah, he must be.
Right. Let's see. In 1933, President Roosevelt issues an executive order making Mount Rushmore in Black Hills, South Dakota, a part of the National Park Service.
That's a good one.
1935, Dr. Robert Smith takes his last drink and creates the Alcoholics Anonymous organization to support people in their sobriety.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Awesome. So I guess he did it on a dare, or it was a bar. I guess it was a bar game. All right. 1944, a 15-year-old Joe Nuxhall becomes the youngest player ever in a major league baseball game. So he played with the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh,
I didn't know that. 1944. That was during the war too. So,
right. That's when all the regular players were off at war, and
yeah,
he was probably a fill-in.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, that Field of Dreams. Talk about Field of Dreams, right?
Right.
Okay, 1963, President Kennedy signs the Equal Pay Act of 1963. in an effort to abolish wage disparity between disparity based on sex. Or
That's a good one.
in 2003, the Spirit rover is launched on Mars by NASA. There you go. So those are your useless facts for today. And now now you can go play trivia. Any VFW post that has trivia, now you can play that. So if they ever come up with those questions, now you know the answers to those. So,
Well, that's right. And there were a couple of memorable ones.
right? Yeah, right. Like I didn't know the Dunkin' Donuts guy.
Right.
Well, actually, that's the only one I remember. Oh, that and Julie Garland. And
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hattie McDaniel. I mean, those are the only ones I remember. Just because it was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
And tomorrow you won't even remember them, right?
I don't even remember what happened 2 hours ago, to be honest with you. So it's
So this is where you're supposed to insert a supplement commercial when people start talking about their memory.
you know what? My wife always tells me this. She's like, you only have two faults. I'm like, what is that? She's like, she said something about listening and I couldn't hear the other thing. So I don't know what she was really meant. So it is what it is. Yeah, oh well. But it must have not been that important because she didn't repeat it. Or if she did repeat it, I didn't hear it. So it's fine. I mean, I'm fine.
Well, that's good.
I'm fine. Thank you.
That's great.
I always do that. She gets so mad when I do that. She's like, shut up. People are going to think that you do that. I'm like, what? You got me a shirt that says that my wife beats me. And she got the other one that says he deserved it. So what's the point? You're telling people that.
And your wife wasn't able to tell you about the whole breakfast grilling thing?
She was the one that told me about Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see how mean she is? Yeah. Killing me, Smalls. Killing me. Anyway, all right, let's get on with the show. What do you think about getting on with the show? Because I think, first of all, I need to ask you this. So I did mention in the intro when I introduced you that you were a military veteran, right? So you were actually part of the, if memory serves me correct, you were part of the United States Army, correct?
Yes, I was a career Army person. I retired as a full colonel. I was in the military intelligence branch.
Okay, so we got to stop talking. I can't give you. You're very intelligent. I can't do that anymore. So I'm done. All right. Thanks everybody for coming in and joining into it tonight. That was a very brief show. Thank you so much.
There you go.
No, but when did you retire?
I retired in 2012, so it's been a little while.
Right. So what gave you your in order? So everybody knows that Brenda and I actually met through the VFW. She's part of District 1 as well. So she actually is part of the post down in Frisco. I just don't remember the post number.
I'm going to hold out. I'm going to hold out on you.
Okay, well, you know what? Google's my friend, and they will not disappoint. Anyway, she's part of the Frisco Post, and so we just kind of were talking, and I was able to meet her and everything. So the cool thing about it is that I think the one thing that really drew me to this, because again, the military history that we need to preserve, and we need to keep going for a lot of these years, because a lot of these stories kind of go untold, and so we need to really preserve it. So her organization actually started doing this, and so why don't you tell us a little bit about War and Remembrance that you actually started, right? So this is your gig. This is your full-time gig.
Yes, exactly. So after I retired, I spent a lot of time at the National Archives and all kinds of places gathering research, and I launched, it's been about a year ago, I launched a website called War and Remembrance.us. And essentially what I do is write about the people who served. And most of it, just because of availability of records, it's mostly stories from Korea, World War II, and before that. And obviously, I put the reports for sale on my website, and there's just no end to the stories that can be told. For example, I just completed a report on a lady named Alice Flash.
Uh-huh.
Now, Alice was born in Kansas, and her father was a Civil War veteran. He served with, I think it was a Missouri unit. At any rate, he was on the Union side, and she grew up. She got married, and by 1900, her and her husband, who was a cotton broker, they were living on Galveston. And guess what happened in 1900? The major hurricane.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so the devastating hurricane wiped out. I mean, thousands of people were killed. I mean, the hurricane washed over Galveston Island, and it was. I think it's still the most significant hurricane that killed the most people in the United States. And so she survived, but her husband and her 10-year-old daughter did not. So most people, I like to write about people who have overcome great adversity. So when you have something like that happen to you, it's easy just to quit. But she didn't. She went to live with her parents for a year or two, and then she ended up going to nursing school in Boston. And when World War I came around, the hospital that she was associated with formed what was called Base Hospital Number 44. And to make a long story short, she deploys overseas with this hospital, and she ends up becoming the chief nurse of a hospital center in France where they treated 20,000 soldiers.
Wow.
Patients. Yeah, imagine that, 20,000. And so she ended up winning the Distinguished Service Medal, and I think there was only 24 nurses in World War I that were awarded that.
Wow.
During World War I, the Medal of Honor was the top, and then came the Distinguished Service Cross, and the Distinguished Service Medal was next in line. So at any rate, and then after that, she went on and was a nurse for many years, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, it was an interesting story to write simply because, like I said, I like writing about people who have overcome adversity.
Mm. So how did you come up with this? I don't want to call it a theme, because it's really not a theme, but this concept, this business concept, because obviously, were you, and don't take this wrong, were you a history nerd, a buff?
Well, over the years, I became one. I've always been interested in history, and that just intensified. And part of the, as you briefly touched on earlier, so much history, it needs to be preserved.
Yes.
And if for no other reason, to maybe inspire the next generation, or that, or the reason I like to write about people that have overcome adversity is not only can you learn about history, but you can also learn about the people that went before us that truly were a hardy breed of people. And so this concept was, a lot of websites nowadays, they're looking for the person to upload what they know to the website.
Mm-hmm.
And those websites are a dime a dozen. So they'll say, oh, hey, Caesar, if you've got a relative, upload your stuff to our website so other people can see it. Well, my website is the opposite. My website is, so let's say Alice Flash was an ancestor of yours, and all you know is, oh, well, I had an ancestor who was a nurse in World War I. So you go to my website, you type in her name, and if I've written a product, it pops up, and then it's for sale. It's a digital product, and then it's available for sale and download, and then you can learn about that person. And I'm hoping to get to the point where, as things move along, I'll be able to hopefully hire more folks to assist me with writing more products, because like I said, there's just thousands and thousands of interesting stories out there. So like I said, so the concept is a little bit different. I'm here to provide a service, because quite frankly, unless you have the time, the energy, and the effort, and quite frankly, the know-how, it's very difficult to find information on people who have served in the military.
Mm. And as you can see, I have your website pulled up right now, and yeah, there's a lot of different things here. And one of my I don't want to say one of my favorite things, but like I love looking at like old pictures, World War One pictures in particular, because it's known as the Great War, the war to end all wars, and here we are, 100 years later, still in many wars. And some of these pictures are just remarkable, and just the way that they do it, you know what I mean? It was just it to me, it's just things that people forget, and some of the stories even behind those pictures are remarkable, and they're just super awesome. So yeah, if you check it out, this is the website, warandremembrance.us. You can go in, and like she's saying, you can go ahead and search for different people and different, there's different campaigns here that she has. So support her mission, because this is a very important mission to keep this alive, the history alive. That's what we need to do as as veterans, and B as Americans in the American society, because this is a big part of our history, big part of the U.S. history, and preserving this type of history. So, which is good. So, well, go ahead.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that about the photos, because the guy who I hired, who was assisting me in creating and designing the website and creating the back end, being an IT guy, he came up with all of this AI generated photos. And so when I looked at them, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, they were so historically inaccurate. I said, no, I won't mention his name, but I said,
don't give him a shout out.
I'll just put it this way. His name is Luis. And I said, now, Luis, I said, don't be insulted, but I'm not going to use this AI stuff, because I said, it looks really cool, but it's historically inaccurate. And so I think he was kind of like, you want me to use these vintage photos? I'm like, yes. I said, I said, if I'm going to write about history, I need to be concerned about being historically accurate. So I appreciate you saying that you enjoy the photos, because in today's AI culture, that was something that he wanted to do to my website. But fortunately, I prevailed. So.
Wow, I'm glad you put your foot down, especially because you were paying for the service.
And it doesn't take much convincing when you're hiring
right.
someone to develop.
No, hold on.
I didn't have to put on my colonel hat and be mean or anything. It's
yeah. No, I completely understand, and it's I joke a bit just because it's sometimes it's lighthearted. Lighthearted fun here, so which is fine. What we need to do is, though, again, preserving our history. Everybody wants to know, a lot of people want to know where they came from, so a lot of these people are doing like these DNA tests. It's like, oh, I'm 1% this, I'm 1% that, Why can't we do the same thing with our military history, doing preserving those things? Because a lot of these kids now, the younger generations, don't really know much about some of these conflicts that the U.S. has been involved in, right? And one of my missions here with this podcast is, I started it, and I told you this before. I started this channel and this podcast as a informational channel where we were going to do our BPRs that were required by the national and the state to do it for our post. And it just kind of turned into something else. Then I started doing the weekly updates, and I started doing the monthly updates, and today we're going to have this, tomorrow we're going to have this. And then it started out, we're like, you know what, why don't I start doing some of these interviews, and perhaps I could get something something out of it. So my mission is to highlight veteran-owned businesses, highlight veteran organizations, because business and organizations are two different things, right? Because one's for profit and the other one's for nonprofit. Also highlight some of the things that like for mental health, bring in therapists, different types of therapy that there are, and then I'm going to tell you now that you are the first to that I have as far as like a military history type of organization. I've had Doc Ballard, who is a Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam, actually on the show several times, and he's the light to actually talk to, and he was super awesome to talk to. And I keep in touch with him all the time. I ask him how he's doing. He's like, if I stop moving, I want to stop moving. So he keeps moving, and he's, at his young age, he's still very, very active, and he's like he's got like involved in 33 different organizations that he puts his name out there for that, because as a Medal of Honor recipient, you kind of have some type of status, so he uses that to promote these organizations, which is great, because that's what we need. That those are the type of people that we need out there to actually be putting these organizations in the limelight, because a lot of people don't know. Even you and I don't know some of these organizations that are providing healthcare, that are providing for if you're a homeless veteran, they're providing food, meals, that type of thing. So that's very important that some of these that's why I started this channel, to highlight those things and to bring awareness.
Well, that's fantastic. And have you been to, speaking of organizations, have you been to the new Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington?
No, I have not, and I actually did the DFW ride from DFW to Gainesville for the Medal of Honor host city, but I did not get to go to that new museum which they just built. But I have not gone to that one, so that's on my bucket list. Well, that's on my list to do this year. Not bucket list, because we're here. If it's a bucket list, I'm gonna go to the Maldives or something. That ain't true. Yeah, it's a bucket list.
It's a fantastic museum. They do a really good job of taking original artifacts as if it's a museum, and then they have a lot of high-tech lighting and film to tell the stories. But it's a very impressive museum,
Right.
and well worth the visit.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to go, and I think it's gonna be, it's gotta be probably moving. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there is. But do you know how many Medal of Honor recipients we have, or have received it?
I think it's around between 1,300.
3,500.
Oh, 35. Oh, I was off.
Yeah, I was way off, I think. So, do you know how many are alive?
Oh boy. Well, let me just guess. How about under 50?
No, over 50 actually.
Over. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Under 100.
It is under 100. Yeah, it is under 100.
Okay.
It's the number is actually 61.
Okay.
Like Roger Maris, 61. That's what he needed to.
Well, and I'm sure you know that most of the Medal of Honor winners, they had quite a few during the Civil War because they had different criteria, and that's how Mary Walker, Dr. Mary Walker, who's the only woman who ever won the Medal of Honor, she won it during the Civil War because, like I said, the criteria was a little bit different, and
Right.
but she's on display at the museum there.
Okay. Well, I definitely have to go see it, because now I'm just intrigued about this, especially if they have really, really good what do you call it, displays. It's super awesome. So
They do, and like I said, they do a really good job of using modern technology. I mean, they where you initially come in and you sit through the initial presentation, it's all surround sound with great lighting. I mean, it's a good. Because sometimes museums, if all they do is display artifacts, I mean, for people like me, it's interesting, but it may not be for everybody. But this is a step up from that. Like I said, there's use of very good use of films, and
Right.
and especially the Vietnam display. That's a very good display as well. As a matter of fact, I was with a group of veterans. From Collin County that went, and one of the Vietnam vets was having a hard time getting through. It was the part that does the medevac is fairly realistic, and he was having a hard time with it.
Mm-hmm. That would be cool to go see. You know what I mean? Like see those types of that. That's just what I love doing those. So, which would be fun. I think. So we'll get to those. I think at some point. All right. So let's ask some of the harder questions for you.
Okay.
What is your method as far as when you're writing these pieces? I mean, do you go full on to like the Library of Congress, or do you go to like newspapers to get the stories, or how do you do your research when you start doing a story?
Right. So part of this is when I retired, I was stationed at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and I was living in Northern Virginia for about 5 years before I came to Texas. And during that time, I spent almost 5 years at the National Archives in College Park, Maryland. They've got what's called there the modern military records. So World War I, World War II, Korea, that's where they store all their records. So I spend an awful lot of time there just gathering records, and then going to places like the Army Women's Museum at Fort Lee, Virginia. They have a lot of great photographs of the wax from World War II. So I've also went to the archives in St. Louis to look for morning reports, because that documents a lot of World War II stuff. And my father was a World War II veteran. So when I went to St. Louis, I was able to he was in combat in the Italian campaign. So I was able to document his service, as well as getting copies of his orders for his Purple Heart, his combat infantry badge. So I literally have spent probably close to a decade just gathering and scanning material. So I currently don't have to go anywhere, because I literally have a decade's worth of material that I go through, and like I said, it's all primary source. It's like I said, morning reports, rosters, which helps determine what I write. I mean, obviously, if I have a lot of material, that's the easiest to write. And so, and I do a lot of focusing on, like you saw on my website, a little bit of a challenge for me was writing about the submarine crews. During World War II, 52 submarines, a little over 3,000 officers and enlisted men were lost. But I spent some time learning how to write the basics of Navy terminology and stuff. So that's
Yeah, so sorry. I laugh because acronyms terminology are not the same in every branch.
right, exactly. So that
Even
exactly.
in the Marines and the Navy, they're completely different, even though they're both the same, because they're the Department of the Navy, and Marines will always
Exactly.
tell you. That's the basic
And the only reason I got a little bit motivated to do that is when I was stationed at JIFCOM in Norfolk, which was the Joint Forces Command. I was surrounded by the Navy for about 3 years. So I was this Army colonel at Norfolk. And so I got to learn a lot about the Navy, but that was a little bit of a stretch, but I like to, stretch myself. And I've been doing a lot of writing about, like I said, I call it the Supreme Sacrifice reports. Those are the people who made the supreme sacrifice for our country. So I like to write as much as I can about those folks, because they didn't get to come home and tell stories and whatnot. So I try to tell a part of their story for them. And you may ask, I don't use the ultimate sacrifice. I consider that a modern term. From World War I, they started using supreme sacrifice, and they used that as well in World War II. So being a history buff, I kind of resurrected. I call it the supreme sacrifice and not the ultimate sacrifice, because the ultimate sacrifice, like I said, is a modern term that somebody coined, and people have picked up on that. So, but I'm kind of going back to the tradition of what they called it during World War I and World War II.
Oh man, that's unfortunate that some of these, older terms just kind of like, fade away. One of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite leaders is General MacArthur, right? When he did his farewell speech to Congress, he said, when I was a young, not a cadet, but no, it is a cadet. When I was a young cadet in the halls of the academy, there used to be a song that was played on the over the speakers, and he used to say, he says, old soldiers never die; they just fade away.
Yes.
And God, that was just so impactful to me. That I'm like, that still resonates. And I know it's I get nerdy when it comes down to that, but if you really think about it, and you look into some of these, into what he was trying to say, is that he feels like he, whatever he did at the point of his prime and what he was doing, sometimes it just kind of gets overlooked, and it just in time it just kind of fades away, and it'll be forgotten, right? So his legacy, obviously, everybody knows that his legacy, we'll say, almost like Alexander the Great. I came, I saw, I conquered. And he says, when he went back to the Philippines, to in a lack of a worse of a more upbeat term and or a more modern term, in essence, he said, I'm back, bitches. That's what he said. But I mean, in I was in more modern terms, but he actually said, I will be back in the Philippines at some point. And right. He did. He made his promise. 3 years later, when he came back as the Supreme Commander of the Pacific Forces, and it's awesome. But again, I'm kind of straying away from the whole thing. But he's one of my favorite leaders, because he was just so. People don't know, and I wish I had the real story where just how angry he got and or how like calm he was, and we don't know those little nuances that they have. You just, all you hear is he came, he went back to the Philippines and he was able to do this and that, and that's all we hear. We don't hear the everyday stuff that they went through. So
right, exactly, and I do think hopefully a way to get people interested in history is to write about the people. Now, you and I, being history buffs, nerds, whatever you want to call it, we may be interested in reading books about the battlefield tactics, the weapons, and all that stuff. But to me, I think writing about, not everybody's interested in that, and that's even a narrower group of people. So I think writing about the people and the struggles they faced, because here's another story about overcoming adversity. When General Pershing, who was the general of the army and the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces in Europe during World War I, when he was a lieutenant, I think he was a lieutenant colonel. He was either a major or a lieutenant colonel, and he was stationed at the Presidio in San Francisco, and his regiment was sent down on the border in 1916 because we were having border issues with Pancho Villa. So the U.S. Army was sent down there to chase Pancho Villa into Mexico and guard the border, et cetera, et cetera. I was going to say some history does repeat itself, but I digress. At any rate, while he's down on the border doing his duty, his wife, 3 daughters, and a son are living in quarters on the Presidio. Well, there was a house fire, and he gets a cable that says, come on back, your wife and 3 daughters were killed, but your son survived.
Wow.
So just a terrible, tragic story. So he buries his wife and 3 daughters, her family, she was from Montana, and his son went to live with relatives, and he went back to duty. And like I said, he went on to command the forces of the Allied Expeditionary Force and helped us win World War I. Once again, another an inspiring story of somebody that, one could argue maybe he threw himself into his career because of the tragedy that happened. But once again, it's an inspiring story of not to give up and to continue on and like in his case, change history.
Yes, and it's one of those things that you're right. If I'm sure if who knows if they hadn't passed away in the fire at the Presidio, maybe he would have gotten out. He would have never been that. So it could have been somebody else that would have been that same thing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
things happen for a reason. I'm a huge believer in that things happen for a reason. Unfortunately, sometimes those bad experiences, the bad things that happen in life, will lead you to a greatness later on, and or your demise. You never know. So obviously, he used that. I want to think that he used that to his advantage, and as a motivator to do something, and that's what happened. So
Yeah, exactly.
but we're we're just live. So if you just joined us right now, we are talking to Brenda Reinhart. She is the owner, operator, writer, entrepreneur from the War and Remembrance U.S. That is an organization that writes about a lot of different people in history. And are you able to write about anybody or anything, any point, so anybody can contact you and say, hey, my great uncle was so and so. Can you find anything about this, and can you write about this?
Yeah, exactly. So for example, I've done all the research, and I have records for every single person that died in the Spanish-American War, and their names. If you type in the website, it'll come up, and it will probably say a report is being prepared. And if that's something that you want me to move up in the queue, you just send me an email at my website. It's easy to contact, and I can either, if it's somebody that I've already got the research done on, I can prepare a report fairly quickly. I obviously would consider, depending upon, what the request is, I most certainly, yeah, that's it. I have all the research done for all the every single soldier that died in the Spanish-American War. So for example, a lot of those reports have yet to be written. But so let's say John Smith, you type it in, and it shows that they died in the Spanish-American War. All you do is send me an email, and I'll move that up and prepare that report, and then publish it to the site for sale. So yeah, my website's real easy to contact me. The easiest way is through email. I even have a snail mail address. If somebody wants to do that as well, you got to cover all your bases. But
yeah, I don't know if anybody's really using email snail mail anymore, other than like somebody trying to collect money from you. I think that's the only thing. Or sending you these Arby's coupons that everybody gets.
Right.
It's probably about the only time they use snail mail, or you're deployed. That's really the only time they use.
Exactly. So
yeah, be cool. All right, so this is actually pretty cool. Obviously, is there a cost for the registering to your website and to do some of those reports? Obviously, there's a lot of time involved into it. So is there a cost to some of this?
No, you can peruse the website and type in the only cost is if you decide to buy a product. So you can see, there you go. You can see, if you're interested in one of those reports, you just click on it. It's after purchase, it's a PDF download. So there's no cost to look at the website, and the only time you're registering is if you make a purchase. And obviously, if you want to contact me, all you do is click on the icon for to email me, and I'll answer any questions.
Right. So are you good at right now? You've gotten as far as the World War II, right? Is there any plans to moving on to other conflicts?
Well, it depends. I will probably move on to Korea and Vietnam, but not before I get a lot more content for World War II and World War I. So once I get some of that content uploaded, I'll start on. And there's always exceptions. I mean, I mean, if somebody had a request for, so, say Korea, once again, it depends upon the availability of the material. I mean, I never say never, but right now my focus is on World War II, World War I, and the Spanish-American War.
Right. No, that's cool. I mean, like I said, I'm sure that's keeping you up at night. So yeah.
Well, part of it is simply because when you write about people, you have to. They don't release records on individuals. You have to wait 75 years.
Uh-huh.
So World War II, you can get all kinds of records now that 10 years ago you weren't even authorized to receive. So part of it is, like I said, just the availability of records that they release to the public.
Right. And you were talking about the Supreme Sacrifice. So this Supreme Sacrifice report.
Right. And that explains. And so once again, if you type in, let me see, I'm trying to think of a name you can, if you want to do a search, hit on the where it says do a search, or on the search link.
Search right here. Yep.
Yeah. So for example, type in Alice Flash.
Flash, like FLA.
Yeah, Alice Flash, like as in flashlight.
Oh.
And that's the lady I was telling you about that survived the hurricane in Galveston, Texas, and went on to win the Distinguished Service Medal. So essentially, that's how the whole process works. So when somebody comes to the website, let's say that's somebody you were looking for, you type it in, it's available for sale. So type it, if you let me give you a name where it'll come up where it's not yet prepared. So if you hit on the type in Charles Wyckoff, Wikoff. Now that one says coming soon, because I'm in the final stages of working on that.
Wow.
And Charles Wyckoff is very, very interesting. He was the only brigade commander killed in the Spanish-American War in the charge of San Juan Hill. But he started, and he was an old guy. This was I'm sure his wife was mad that he went off on this last hurrah, because he was at retirement age. He started out as a private in the Civil War. And so in the report I'm preparing for him, it's actually quite interesting, because he was wounded in the Civil War. He ended up with wearing an eye patch. He had lost an eye in the Civil War. But then he went to work on Reconstruction in Mississippi. So he was involved in that whole process where the U.S. Army supervised elections in Mississippi, because that's what they did during Reconstruction. And then he was involved in the Indian Wars. And then, like I said, his final war was the Spanish-American War, and that's where he was killed. But it's a very interesting career that shows that literally is what an Army officer did from the Civil War to the Spanish-American War and in between.
That's crazy. This is so interesting. Maybe, I don't know. Just throwing this out there. Maybe you should contact the Library of Congress, because this stuff is very interesting to have. Daughters of the American Revolution, even the Sons of the American Revolution. Those type of things where I'm sure they would love to have some of these records that you've been able to pull up.
They're happy to purchase my product.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna do something a little bit different. We're actually gonna take a little break. I'm going to play you, and I'm gonna quiz you after this because that's what I do. I'm
Uh-oh.
gonna quiz you after this. So make sure you're paying attention to this this quick little thingamajigabob that I'm about to play you. And again, as a history buff, I'm pretty sure you will like this.
Okay.
So, all right. Without further ado, everybody, you are listening to the Battle Rhythm podcast here on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network, also on BC Digital and on Patriot Radio out of Florida. Thank you, everybody, for listening today, and we'll be right back. I'm going to play this video and this audio, so stay tuned. When we come back, we'll keep talking to Brenda, and we're going to keep talking more and more about these stories that she has, because this is very interesting to me. And I'm sure, like I said, maintaining our military history and some of these awesome stories that nobody ever gets to do. To hear, not to do, but to hear. It's just the way that we keep our memories alive, and then those memories and the legacies of these people that have done the what did you call it? The supreme sacrifice. So that's what we're doing. So when we come back, we'll be quizzing Brenda about this video that I'm about to play. So without further ado, I present to you the Tootsie Roll Man.
As he approaches his 96th birthday, Jim Hahn still remembers intimate details about his time serving as a Marine in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. And he also remembers how it all started.
Mother wasn't going to sign. I told her, I said, if you don't sign this, I'll lie about my age. And she signed.
He was inspired to enlist when walking down the street at 16 years old. He tells K10 he saw some people messing with a Marine and his girlfriend.
They was doing anything they could try to make him mad. He told his girlfriend there to go down and wait for him at the red light at the end of the street there. He turned around and whipped all four of those guys.
A year later, he was off to San Diego for basic training. Hahn joined the occupation force in both China and Japan during World War II, which marks the only time in the history of Japan that it has been occupied by a foreign power. A bitter time these days, though. Gunnery Sergeant Hahn holds tight to the sweeter moments.
It's going into Japan, there, into town. I seen all these little kids running around there, and they looked like they was hungry and everything else. So I started in and getting candy from our PX and taking it in there and giving it to the little kids. It got to where whenever I'd come inside the city limits, man, here come all these kids.
What he didn't realize at the time, candy would one day become his lifeline. In November of 1950, just a few months after the Korean War began, 8,000 fighters, mostly Marines, were trapped in the Chongjin Reservoir, surrounded by 120,000 Chinese soldiers. And you guessed it, Sergeant Hahn was one of those Marines.
If somebody told me this, I'd have thought of him as being a liar, because I did not think that it would get 90 degrees below zero. I seen guys just walking along, and all of a sudden I could stop walking, and they was dead. They'd freeze to death while they was walking.
Freezing, barely hanging on to life. The Marines called for ammunition using their code word, Tootsie Roll.
I never will forget that. They got on the radio there and talking to them, said, send us some Tootsie Rolls. And they was talking about ammunition, a certain type of ammunition.
Well, the soldier on the other end of that radio took the message literally, and they dropped into the reservoir Tootsie Rolls.
Here's this 3 planes there coming out with these parachutes coming down there with Tootsie Rolls. It's supposed to be ammunition, but it's Tootsie Rolls. But if it hadn't been for them, a lot of us, including me, would probably starve to death.
Those little chocolate candies were the fuel that sustained the troops. All other provisions were frozen, so they survived on the chocolate.
It seemed impossible that they was there for any other reason than to save my life. I thank God many times the fact that I lived through all of it, didn't lose any arms or legs or anything that way. I sat in this foxhole, and people all around me freezing. And some reason or other, I didn't.
He says all he thought about was his next breath and how he would use it.
I don't know, I still think about it sometimes. And I know that God saved me from it. Try to thank God 3 or 4 or 5 times a day about that.
Decades later, Sergeant Hahn literally holds on to that memory with a bucket of Tootsie Rolls made specifically for him with American flags after the company heard his story. Those Marines that made it out are now revered as the heroes of the Frozen Chosen. But this one calls Texoma home, and he chooses to spend his time right here in the Sherman VFW.
I feel like they're brothers. This, to me, is part of the military.
As this veteran reflects on a life of service most would never know, Hahn would do every second of it again. The few, the proud, the Marines.
It was such an honor to be able to sit down with Jim, and I just want to say right here on the record, thank you for your service. Not only a World War II veteran, a 3-war veteran. He decided to just
so
keep going
incredible.
back. I know.
And you know, I had heard that, I knew that there was something involving Tootsie Rolls, but that was the first time I actually heard that full story, and that is so incredible.
And he's just walking around Texoma.
Why do 90% of regulars say the Black Sheep Lounge just feels different? Is it the hand-picked cigars, the signature cocktails, or the warm, welcoming crowd? Let's find out what makes this place a true Denison gem. At the Black Sheep Lounge, we believe in celebrating the finer things without the fuss. Our walk-in humidor is stocked with premium cigars for every palate, from those discovering their first smoke to lifelong aficionados. But we're more than cigars. Our bartenders craft old fashions the old-fashioned way, rich, smooth, and perfectly balanced every time. What really sets us apart? It's the atmosphere. Picture low lights, plush chairs, and a community that welcomes newcomers and regulars alike. Whether you're looking to unwind after work, catch up with friends, or just enjoy a quiet moment, you'll find your spot here. So, swing by 127 West Main Street and see why the Black Sheep Lounge is downtown Denison's unique hideaway. Pull up a chair, light up, and raise a glass with us. You belong here. When it comes to your home, don't settle for good enough. Choose the crew who lives by integrity and excellence. Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, EGA Construction is a veteran-owned and operated company, meaning discipline, dedication, and honesty aren't just buzzwords, they're our way of life. With over 25 years of experience, we take pride in delivering on time and on budget every single time. From stunning remodels to steel buildings to tenant finish-outs, EGA is your one-stop shop for all things construction, because you deserve a partner who listens, communicates, and stands by their word. We're not just building spaces, we're building trust. Our team's military background means sharp attention to detail, transparent process, and a relentless commitment to your satisfaction. And as proud sponsors of the Battle Rhythm podcast, we keep our ties strong with the veteran community, because service doesn't stop with us, it continues in everything we do. Ready to work with a team that treats your home like their own? Choose EGA Construction, where precision meets passion.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm podcast. I am Caesar, and we are here joined by Brenda Reinhart, who is the owner, founder, entrepreneurish of the War and Remembrance. And we have been talking about some of these great stories that, like I said, they have not been heard, and it's just awesome to keep that that legacy alive. So which is kind of cool. So thank you for joining us today.
That was a really awesome special on Sergeant Hahn.
Right. So that was done by a very good friend of mine, Bailey Bond, who is the news anchor here in K10 in Texoma. She did a little, obviously a very long interview with Mr. Hahn, and it was just cool to see that, you know, like I said, as a Marine and a 3-war veteran, as a Marine, that's unheard of, really. You know what I mean? Because Marines being alive for 3 different, conflicts, different wars, crazy. World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. I mean, that's Unbelievable. So
And he still looks so good in his uniform. That's awesome.
I tell you what, like this man still lives alone. He is still, spry. He still runs. He still does this everything pretty much by himself. It's remarkable, and it's just really fun to see him. And so my daughter, she's 7 years old. She always looks for him every time we go to the post. We always look for him, and it's super cool to see. And I love that, because he's able to share with them all the time. And one of these days, maybe I'll put some of these pictures of her and him.
And I bet he always has Tootsie Rolls for her.
He has a whole bucket of Tootsie Rolls all the time. I keep telling him, I'm like, Mr. Han, I am a diabetic. I cannot have any of them. So I appreciate it. So, it's cool. It's really cool to see. And the fact that the company provides them with a lifetime supply of them with that American flag, it's cool. You know what I mean? He'll never have to pay for any of those again, and hopefully that we'll be able to continue that legacy at the Post and be like, hey, we are the quote unquote Tootsie Roll Post.
That's fantastic.
So anyway, all right, so let's get to the point. This is why I brought you here. Really, for that video, but I'm also going to ask you some of these questions that perhaps you did not know. So I will ask you these questions about the video we just watched, and this is going to depend whether or not you are a true history buff or not.
Okay.
So your reputation is at stake here.
Oh no, the pressure's on.
That's right. All right. So what was the name of the reservoir that they were in?
Chosan.
Okay, and then how many Chinese soldiers were there?
Okay, this is a swag, but let me 50,000.
Brenda. Oh, for one.
More? Way more?
Strike one.
Say what?
Strike one. So yeah, there was way more.
Is this kind of be like that game show where I say higher or lower?
No, I'm just saying strike one. Strike three. I'm just gonna kick you out of the show. And be like, no.
So how about 200,000?
Oh, you know what? Strike two.
Higher,
so,
lower.
Well, you were halfway there.
Oh, 100,000.
Yeah.
There we go.
And,
basic math, I can do that.
So how many U.S. soldiers were there? Soldiers and Marines, or troops, I could say.
Yeah, soldiers and Marines. 22,000.
Strike one.
Higher or lower?
The way lower.
Way lower?
Yeah.
12,000.
A little bit lower than that.
10,000?
8,000.
Wow.
Yeah, 8,000. Crazy, right? Did you happen to hear, or did you happen to remember what they did with those Tootsie Rolls?
Well, they ate them. I mean, they used them to survive.
Right. But what was the other purpose?
Other purpose of the Tootsie Rolls. Other than using them to survive, I don't recall the other part.
So they would.
I guess I should have paid closer attention to the.
I get everybody. So they found that if you heat them just enough, they would be able to put them in the bullet holes of the wall.
Oh, see,
so
I didn't. Okay, I didn't.
So the wind wouldn't come in, right? So they would heat them just enough so they could put them in there, and they would freeze instantly, making the holes pretty much gone, because they were using that. So yeah, that's the other purpose. So that's another
I must have got up and got a drink while that part was on.
Hey, thanks for reminding me. I did get a drink. It's the black one. So that's a good one. So yeah, that's what it was. But hey, thanks for playing our game. We'll be back next week because Brenda it struck out on this one. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would I have gotten a prize?
Yeah, you got bragging rights.
There we go.
Yeah, prize here, the Battle Rhythm podcast. Please, I am not monetized yet, and there is no way I can afford to give you a prize. The prize is that you came out you came out of this game or this quiz being in a higher learning.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. I have no bragging rights, but I did learn something. But I thought you maybe had like the Battle Rhythm podcast coffee cup or something.
You know what? It's coming. Merch is coming on the website. The website, which by the way is actually be in the works, and it's actually sponsored by the American Legion Writers of Post 231. They graciously have hosted or sponsored my website, so thank you to them for being able to being one of the great sponsors for the Battle Rhythm podcast. So a shout out to the American Legion and the American Legion Writers of Post 231 MIA Post out in Lake Texoma. So thank you for that. So it's cool. Anyway, so let's get back to business here. And again, I love hearing this. Tell me another story that I don't know that you talked about Charles Wyckoff, and you also talked about Flash, not the Flash, but well, actually, she is the Flash.
Alice
Flash.
Well, here's another interesting part of history. Did you know that during the Civil War and the Spanish-American War, and even in World War I, Catholic nuns served as a part of the U.S. Army as nurses?
I knew that women served, but I didn't know that there were Catholic nuns.
There were. During the Civil War and the Spanish-American War, they served as Army contract nurses. As a matter of fact, near Gettysburg, there's a Catholic order of nuns called the Sisters of Charity that was founded by Elizabeth Ann Seton, who was the first American-born saint. She started the order in the United States, and her mother house and minor basilica is in Maryland, and it's literally probably 6-7 miles from Gettysburg.
Oh, wow.
So when the Civil War happened, they desperately needed nurses, and that's partly where it started. Many of the nurses from the order literally didn't have to go far to care for, the thousands of soldiers laying wounded on the battlefield. And the interesting thing is, when I was still living in Virginia doing research on that topic, I actually went to the archives in Emmitsburg, Maryland, where the Mother House and the Sisters of Charity live. And when I said I was talking about the Spanish-American War, the lady who's the historian says, "Oh, they served in the Civil War. You must be mistaken." And I said, "No, take a look." I said, "They served in the Spanish-American War." So she goes back in her little archives, and I'm patiently waiting. And sure enough, she came out with, she was able to come up with the original oath of enlistment that was signed by each nun. There was probably about 115 of them that served, and wow. she was just flabbergasted because she had no idea. But it was really cool to see from 1898 their discharge certificates and whatnot. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, it's on my website. 4 of them died in service, obviously, of disease. And the last time the Army employed Catholic nuns was for Base Hospital 102 was formed in New Orleans, and about half of the unit was standard Army nurses, and then they beefed up the unit with Catholic nuns. Once again, it was the Sisters of Charity who had an order in New Orleans, and they spent the war in Italy caring for American troops there. But that was the last time that Catholic nuns served as Army nurses.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's a cool little fact, tidbit of history. That's cool. I love it. Like, this is like, I'm totally nerding out right now because I do
Hey,
like that.
I'm full of tidbits.
Yeah, right. Hey, what's the useful information for the day, Brenda?
Well, like I said, you and I are having a blast. I hope your
Yeah.
audience is.
Hey, we have some faithful here. We have quite a bit of people up online right now. I'm not,
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Like I'm pretty sure my regulars in. So if you're out there in the socials, whatever you're watching, yeah, send us a line. Ask any questions about this. I do have a question for you. So let's see how good you know your army history.
Uh-oh, here we go.
So the patron saint of the infantry.
Oh, I knew. Oh, no, I should know that. I was an intelligence officer. What can I say?
Well, intelligence should know this because you're supposed to know the intelligence.
Right. I don't. I don't know. I almost thought you were going to ask me what the patron saint of the field artillery was, but no. So okay. So you got me again. What's the patron saint of the infantry?
Saint Maurice.
Ah, Saint Maurice. What were you? You were in the army, right? Or were you in the Marines?
Oh God, I don't think I was eating any crayons today. Nope, I was in the army. I was army.
Were you an 11 Bravo?
I don't think I was eating any crayons today. No, I was a 13 Romeo, which is field artillery. Artillery radar. That what?
The Queen of Battle.
No, the King of Battle. Are you kidding me? The Queen of Battle is the infantry. God. How dare you, man?
I couldn't
How dare you? And at this point, I can't even call you Brenda, Colonel. Gosh.
If the screen goes blank, I'll understand.
Yeah, exactly. Bye, Felicia.
We're having technical difficulties. See ya.
I'm sorry. I cannot hear you through this. Did you say something? I hear your lips, but I cannot see you. I cannot hear you.
Yeah, that's right. La 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 la.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I was artillery. And do you know the artillery saint?
No.
You don't know the patron saint of the artillery?
I did at one time, but it just it slipped my brain.
It is Saint Barbara.
Oh, Saint Barbara.
Mm-hmm. Saint Barbara is the patron saint of the artillery. So yeah, it's cool. I've been to many Saint Barbara's balls. That's pretty cool. That sounded weird. Sorry.
See, what? You were going to say something.
No, I said this sounded weird. I said I've been to many Saint Barbara's balls. There is every year there is a Saint Barbara ball that is held. So I've been to many of them, therefore it was plural, but it came out really weird and it sounded stupid. I was like, I told you I was gonna apologize before we started the show. I'm gonna say something stupid, and I did. We went to St. Barbara's balls. So,
that was a good one. I was gonna
do so well.
I was gonna help you out and change the subject, but
no, I sometimes you have to pay the bills and you have to do some comedy relief. Not, ladies and gentlemen, we talk comedy relief.
Well, see, you were very kind. When I told you I was a military intelligence officer, I was waiting for you to say, "Oh, military intelligence, that's an oxymoron."
Hey, at this point I'm here to serve, and, and I am not here to judge. What's that? What's the one trend that's going on in TikTok?
Yeah, actually, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me, I could give a lot of stuff for free on my website.
Right? But there is a trend going on right now or it was a couple weeks ago on TikTok and Facebook, and it was like, we're here to listen, not judge, or something like that. And there was couples doing it, and it just got dumb. So I'm just to say that I'm here to listen. I'm not here to judge.
Actually, the weirdest trend that I heard about was this whole thing where men are calling, or a guy calls another guy and says, I just want to say goodnight.
I say that.
It's some weird TikTok thing, and then they show the selfies of a guy calling a guy saying, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to say good night," and then they listen to the response, and it's pretty comical sometimes.
That's funny. I've seen some other ones. They're uh, interesting to say the least. I think one of the funniest ones is where a guy asks his wife, is like, and he says, "So, I've heard it said that women are always right and men are always wrong. If I tell you you're right, am I wrong?"
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I told my wife that one, and she's like, "Shut up."
Well, and speaking of current events, I am thrilled that they changed the name of Camp Liberty back to Fort
Oh,
Bragg. Or I
yes.
should, yeah, Fort Liberty. Yeah, they changed it back to Fort Bragg. I mean, I heard today the president was at Fort Bragg, and he said he's also considering restoring the names of the other posts where they changed their name, like Fort Hood.
Yeah, Fort Hood is although
I don't even know what the
actually,
current name was, but
it's called Fort Cavazos now. And I am going to tell you right now that one's going to be hot, very, very fought. Like, it's going to be a battle for that one to go back.
really, how come?
Yes. So I actually the as you know, Fort Hood is huge, right? There's two sides of it. Fort Hood is there's two of them. Well, two sides of it. It's split in half. Anyway.
Right.
So Fort Hood is the only active military duty post that actually has a VFW post in inside of the base.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. So this is the only one. This is I believe it's about 3 years old that it's been happening. So a very good friend of mine, his name is Willie Keller, who is the post commander there at Fort Cavazos for the VFW. He literally has, and I kid you not, like, if he needs something done, some of his post members are constellations and stars, and it's basically a zoo in there. So he has constellations, he has stars, he has birds, full birds and everything you can think of. And so he told me one time, I had him on the show, and he said Fort Cavazos is actually I believe, I don't quote me, but I believe he's a Medal of Honor recipient of Mexican American descent, and I believe, or either Mexican American descent or Native American descent. I don't remember which one it is, but so they're gonna fight that tooth and nail to see if they keep that name, which is I mean, it's a noble cause. The reason that it went that way. So that one's I think it's gonna be pretty fought, especially by the VFW. That post.
Well, that will be interesting. Well, it's an interesting argument because once again, it's funny because they were interviewing General Jack Keane, and he's a former commander of Fort Bragg, and he was happy that the name was changed back because he said that for generations, and sort of like for generations of people at Fort Hood, I mean, that was their home, and that was where people deployed out of and returned to. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about changing, a post lineage because it's. I don't know. You may feel different, and you're probably right. There's probably going to be a fight, but he did say today they were looking into restoring the names of the posts that were changed in the last 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. So here I pulled it up, and this is the official U.S. Army Fort Cavazos page that came up here. Let me actually share this so you can actually see it, because it's pretty interesting, and I'll read it so everybody can see it. But I'll read it so those that are listening to us in the on radio can actually see or hear what I'm actually saying. So let me share this real quick. So, Fort Cavazos. Fort Hood redesignated to Fort Cavazos May 9th. On May 9th, 2023, our installation was redesignated Fort Cavazos in honor of General Richard Edward Cavazos, a Texas-born hero of the Korean and Vietnam Wars. The post was one of 9 U.S. Army installations being redesignated based on the naming commission's recommendations to remove the names, symbols, displays, monuments, and paraphernalia that honor or commemorate the Confederate States of America. We are proud to be renaming Fort Hood as Fort Cavazos in recognition of an outstanding American hero, a veteran of the War of the Korean and Vietnam Wars, General Cavazos. Combat proven leadership, his moral character, and his loyalty to his soldiers and their families made him the fearless and respected and influential leader that he was during the time he served and beyond, said Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, former 3rd Armored Corps Commanding General. We are ready and excited to be part of such a momentous part of history while we honor a leader who we all admire. And about the General Cavazos, fate brought General Cavazos into American century, but valor and leadership characterized his career if a military serves within it. Cavazos was born in January 31st, 1929 in Kingsville, Texas, to a Mexican-American parents, Lauro and Tomasa Quintanilla Cavazos. His father was a World War I veteran who later became a ranch foreman of the King's Ranch, Santa Gertrudis Division. Cavazos grew up during the Great Depression and came of age during World War II, eager to join the Army. He enrolled in the ROTC program in Texas Technical University right out of high school and was commissioned into the Army right after graduation in 1951. After attending the Infantry Officer Basic Course and airborne training, First Lieutenant Cavazos was then deployed to Korea, where he was selected as a platoon leader of E Company, 2nd Battalion, 65th Infantry Regiment, known as the Borinqueniers. That's a weird word. Borinqueniers. The 65th Infantry had been in Korea since the start of the war and was primarily made up of soldiers from Puerto Rico. That's why. Okay, I get it. Many of whom only spoke Spanish. Cavazos, who was raised bilingual, was a welcomed addition after a series of commanders who spoke no Spanish, which resulted in confusion and chaos during battles. I'm going to pause here because I want to go back to this here. Borinqueniers is actually a derivative of Boricuas. Boricuas is what Puerto Ricans are known. So that's where that came from. Okay. Throughout his time in the Army, Cavazos believed that troops needed to have complete trust and faith in their commanding officer to achieve victory. As an example of his leadership, in February 1953, Cavazos at first leading a few of his men and then going on alone once under attack by enemy fire, capture a wounded enemy soldier who had been left behind after an earlier skirmish. Cavazos was awarded a Silver Star for his bravery. In June 1953, Cavazos' leadership abilities were once again on display. He led his men on an assault of the enemy-held Hill 412 as part of the maneuver to cover Outpost Harry, an important defensive position near the hill. They soon came under heavy enemy artillery fire, which resulted in many American casualties. After successfully defending Outpost Harry throughout 3 intense hours of fighting, Cavazos received the order to return to friendly lines. Refusing to leave fallen and wounded American soldiers behind, he repeatedly went back to rescue men, despite being wounded himself. His actions led to the Army awarding him the Distinguished Service Cross, the nation's second highest military honor for valor, as well as the Medal of Honor, the Armed Forces' highest military award for valor. Cavazos had previewed his career that was to follow, characterized by the personal courage, commitment to his soldiers, and dedication to his mission. As the Korean War ended and the Cold War endured, Cavazos continued to serve the nation with distinction. During the 1950s and early 1960s, he served as a student in several Army programs for officer development, rising through the ranks and enhancing his skills. A sixth-generation Texan, he also returned to the ROTC program at Texas Tech for 3 years as a professor of military science. When the Vietnam War began, and then Lieutenant Colonel Cavazos was ready to bring men into battle once more. He commanded the 1st Battalion, 18th Infantry Regiment, often fighting in the field and frequently leading from the front. In 1967, he was once again awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for rallying his men through an ambush, organizing a counterattack and leading several maneuvers to repulse and destroy extensive enemy defenses, repeatedly exposing himself to enemy fire in the process. Throughout his career, Cavazos continued to combine personal valor with commitment to his troops and dedication to his missions. Additionally, earning 2 Legions of Merit, 5 Bronze Stars, the Purple Heart, and many other medals and awards for exceptional service in war and peace. Although he completed his career in peacetime, Cavazos continued to keep the soldiers under his command combat ready, striving to promote our nation's security. He served in the Army's strategic branches at the Pentagon and as the defense attaché to the embassy in Mexico. His final assignment as head of the U.S. Army Forces Command fittingly summarized his career of service by placing him at the head of sustaining, training, and deploying all the Army's deployable forces. Cavazos retired from the Army in 1984 after 33 years of service, never forgetting his Texas roots or his time serving there. General Cavazos retired to his native state and continued to serve as a mentor to the Battle Command Training Program, an initiative to ready officers for combat leadership that Cavazos himself had started. During his 33 years of retirement, Cavazos lived in San Antonio, Texas, and was credited with mentoring many Army commanders. He died October 29th, 2017, and is buried at San Antonio's Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery. As a veteran of 2 modern wars and a longtime leader of soldiers, General Richard Cavazos' service demonstrates excellence at every level. His 20th century service will inspire soldiers that continue to those with tradition of excellence into the 21st century. Well, there's a lot of different things here, so I'm not going to read the rest of it because there's a lot of it. But that is the story of General Cavazos.
Well, he's a great man, and our nation is blessed to have such leaders like that who dedicate their lives to our country.
Right.
Well, and being a fellow lover of history, though, let me ask you this. What about the concept of, this changing of the names on 9 Army posts strikes me as a little bit of erasing of history.
No, you're right. I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that because I was also of the mindset that I was, and people are going to say this, but just hear me out. Okay. In the South, during that whole time, there's a lot of turmoil. They were bringing down these Civil War from the Confederate States. There were a lot of these monuments that were erected, and they were being brought down for those reasons. Now, you're right. I am of the mindset that's like, wait, that is part of American history. Yes, negative as it is, it's still part of our history. That's what made this the United States. Now, if it weren't for the Civil War and the way that the outcome, who knows if the South would have won, it would have been a different story, right? Only the winners get to write history,
right?
But let's not erase history. I mean, yes, as negative as it could be, it's a reminder that our own country went through turmoil itself to remain our country, right? We shouldn't erase those things. And when people say like, oh well, it reminds us of unfortunately, like slavery and systemic racism and all that stuff, like, but you guys are missing the point of the fact that it is a part of our history, unfortunately. But also, you can't just say, oh, let's erase it by removing these. It should be as a reminder that now we're look at where we are now in history, where we're able to do many things that perhaps those people were not able to do in a long time, right? They were being oppressed and they're not able to do it. Why do that? I mean, Mexico went through that same thing when they were actually, they were colonized by the Spaniards for a long time. There were, there were three different people that were trying to actually make Mexico a monarchy, and they couldn't do it. But that's still part of our history, and it brought a lot of different things. Because of that, because of somebody trying to be coming over from Europe into Mexico, and they brought certain things that were picked up, like for example, the accordion. And everybody knows, in Tejano music, the accordion is very prevalent. If you really listen to Tejano music, it's polka.
Yes, that's true.
So why erase it? Embrace it. You know what I mean? Does it bring negative memories? Of course it does, but so does World War II. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm just a firm believer in when you preserve history as it is, there's lots of lessons to be learned, because part of the reason why Fort Bragg and other Army posts were named after Confederate generals is because they were trying to bring the country together. Yeah. And so in many ways it was seen as a reconciliation or an olive branch, or in other words, like I said, trying to bring the nation together, which was an interesting, the more you read about the Spanish-American War, is at the time there was an awful lot of editorials that said, oh, the Civil War is finally behind us. Northern and Southern men are fighting together in the same unit. And when they had soldiers that died in the Southern camps during the Spanish-American War because of diseases, they literally had news articles where the ladies of such and such a town in South Carolina are taking care of the graves of the boys from the North, and we want their mothers to know that. So even at the Spanish-American War, you still had wounds that were very open from the Civil War, and people were trying to heal that. So getting back to my original point, the monuments, it wasn't meant to glorify the Confederacy. It was meant as a reconciliation and and a way to bring the country together. And I just think that the finer point, history is always complicated. People like to shorten it, but that's just one of those complex things that I'm worried that people are trying to erase those more complex parts of our history.
Right, exactly. So, all right, so we come to a time of the show that I need to go ahead and acknowledge one of our patrons and one of our sponsors. So when we come back, we're going to keep talking about the renaming of these bases. So when we come back, you're listening to the Battle Rhythm Podcast here on on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network, UC Digital, and Patriot Radio. But you are listening to Military Stories. So come back. We'll be here back in 2 minutes.
I think I messed up. I thought all Harley shops were the same, until I walked into Texoma Harley Davidson. Trust me, this place is next level. Picture this, a place where riders are family, and the open road is always calling. Texoma Harley Davidson, right here in Sherman, is run by Kenny and his crew. Real riders who actually get what the ride means to you. From custom bikes and killer gear to award-winning service that's earned them the Harley Davidson Gold Award, this shop is as legit as it gets. They're not just selling motorcycles, they're building a community where you belong, whether you're a veteran, a weekend warrior, or just bike curious. And here's the insider move, swing by. Mention you heard about them on the Battle Rhythm Podcast, and experience true hometown hospitality with a big-time selection. It's your next ride, your new crew, and your ticket to freedom, all in one stop. Texoma Harley Davidson, go beyond the ordinary. Let's ride.
If you don't like standing on the sidelines but still want to make a difference, then tune in to the Battle Rhythm Podcast. Picture this. Fighter jets roaring through the sky, field artillery radars scanning the horizon, and soldiers charging forward, grit and determination etched on their faces. We start in black and white, honoring the past, but then, boom! It's full color, reflecting the vibrant, resilient spirit of today's veterans. The Battle Rhythm Podcast isn't just about military strategy or historical battles. It's a lifeline for veterans, a platform for voices often unheard. We dive deep into mental health, tackle suicide prevention, and build strong community ties. With guests from non-profits to military advocates, we're here to make a difference together. Join us every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Voice of the People USA radio and TV network, and be part of something bigger. Because when the battle ends, the rhythm continues. Subscribe now and let's march forward united.
When it comes to your home, don't settle for good enough. Choose the crew who lives by integrity and excellence. Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, EGA Construction is a veteran-owned and operated company, meaning discipline, dedication, and honesty aren't just buzzwords, they're our way of life. With over 25 years of experience, we take pride in delivering on time and on budget every single time. From stunning remodels to steel buildings to tenant finish-outs, EGA is your one-stop shop for all things construction, because you deserve a partner who listens, communicates, and stands by their word. We're not just building spaces, we're building trust. Our team's military background means sharp attention to detail, transparent process, and a relentless commitment to your satisfaction. And as proud sponsors of the Battle Rhythm podcast, we keep our ties strong with the veteran community, because service doesn't stop with us, it continues in everything we do. Ready to work with a team that treats your home like their own? Choose EGA Construction, where precision meets passion.
Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm Podcast. I am Caesar. I'm here joined by Brenda Reinhart, who is the owner, operator, / entrepreneur / writer / pretty much everything besides the webmaster. She runs an organization called War and Remembrance, and we've been talking about a lot of these stories that a lot of people don't know about. One I was trying to bring up last segment was obviously you're part of the Army, and so you should know Army history. For the most part, you've kept your word. But do you know the story of Molly Pitcher?
Yes.
Okay. Redemption. Share the story of Molly Pitcher and why she was called Molly Pitcher.
Well, Molly Pitcher, if I remember correctly, during the American Revolution, I think it was her husband who fell in battle, and she helped with firing of the cannons. Do I have that right?
Well,
no, I guess not.
Well,
I failed.
It failed miserably. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, so that was partly true. However, there was the reason her last name was not Pitcher. Her name was Molly Pitcher because her name was Molly, but she was also tending to the wounded. So she was bringing pitchers of water to the wounded.
Okay, that makes sense.
And she was giving them water while they were being wounded in the battlefield. So that's why she was called Molly Pitcher.
I don't know where I got that cannon thing from.
Well, that was pretty accurate.
I have failed in the quizzes miserably.
Oh yeah, you did. It's fine. Well, Brenda, now that you failed miserably, the only way to pay me back is to write a story about Mr. Han.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely a story that needs to be preserved.
Yes. So anytime you want to come up here and talk to him, I do have all of his paperwork as far as like all of his DD-214s and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yes, I do have it. So whenever you want to, get a copy of them, I will get them to you. So, which reminds me, I have to send the bio for him this weekend because he is actually going to be the veteran of the game at Texoma FC here in Sherman, and he is going to be recognized at the very beginning of the game. And so they're going to be sharing his story in 30 seconds, little awards or whatnot. So his little bio, military bio.
Nice.
So yeah, come out this weekend on Saturday at, I believe let's see, I have the schedule right here. June 14th, right? June 14th will be at 7:30 against Tormenta FC. The tickets, I believe tickets are $10 this week. So it's actually a pretty cool family deal to go there. So it'll be at Bearcat Stadium here in Sherman, Texas. So make sure you come out and support Texoma FC, and you will see Mr. Han live and in color, and he may or may not be wearing his uniform. Just saying.
I bet he will.
I am 100% sure he will be wearing his uniform. That man never leaves home without it. I swear. It's like the only clothes he has. No, just kidding. No, he probably will be wearing it there just because he's so proud of his military service, and obviously that keeps him going. So which is great for all of us. So. All right,
absolutely.
Brenda, I would like to invite you to a little segment that I like to call rapid fire questions. So this is my favorite segment, and this is actually a lot of people's favorite segment. So we're going to do a little game called the rapid fire questions. Rapid fire questions is brought to you by EGA Construction out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that is owned and operated by a veteran, Marine veteran at that. He is the past state commander of the VFW, Mr. Lynn Toomer, who will be very, very close to know whether or not he is actually going to be winning the national bid for junior vice commander. So we will be voting for that at the national convention here coming up in August in Columbus, Ohio. So we'll be out there to support, and hopefully he'll come out a winner. So we'll see what it is, because being a Texan, you gotta support Texas. So that's our candidate. So anyway, great dude. So yeah, this segment is brought to you by, you know why he sponsored the segment? Because he actually loves the segment. So he's like, that's the segment I want. If I'm going to sponsor something, I was like, hey, it's yours, no problem. So here we go. All right, the premise of this game, it's as follows. I will ask you a question, and you shall answer with the first thing that comes to mind. If you take more than if you take more than 5 seconds, then you're thinking way too hard, because it's supposed to be right, as soon as you think about it, it just comes out. All right, so I will give you a sample question of how this is going to be played. Okay, are you ready?
I guess. Yes.
See? I love shocking people. This is my favorite. The reason why I love this game, because it just comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh wait, what? What just happened? Putting people on the spot is awesome. Just like, when you were a colonel, you put people on the spot all the time. So it's our turn to do this thing.
Right. It's probably awesome for you, but you go.
Hell yeah. Hey, karma comes in many different ways, and my name is Karma. So here we go. All right. This is your sample question, so you only get one, remember, so don't blow it. Your favorite military movie?
Top Gun.
Which one?
First one.
Original one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good pull. Mine is Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I love that one. I love that one because Gunny Highway.
Actually, my second thought would have been Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah. Right.
That one was hard. That one, okay, so that one was hard for people to watch, because like at the very beginning, I mean, I remember when I first saw it, on the beach, right? In the beach of Normandy, this guy is like, he's kind of like disoriented, but he's looking for something, and next thing you know, like he finds it and it's his arm. I'm like, oh. So that gave me an impression of like, oh, that was like, I'll never go into the army, and look at it in. Yeah, that was a bonehead mistake. All right. So now you know how the game is played.
I do.
All right. So as we go on the rounds, the questions get tougher and tougher.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. So, all right. Here we go. If you had not enlisted in the Army, which other branch would you serve?
Air Force.
Of course, you would have said that, and not because you were thinking I should have been Air Force from the beginning. Oh, that shouldn't even be an answer. Okay, that should not even be an answer. All right, what was your favorite duty station?
Fort Huachuca. No, Fort Belvoir.
Huachuca. Holy shnikes! That place is a hellhole.
It was fun though. I was a second lieutenant. But anyway,
I get it. You were young and you
the
were.
answer to that is what where did I have a lot of fun at? So anyway, I digress.
Wow, that tells me a lot. I know you were going to Nogales all the time. That's why.
Yes, I've been to Nogales. Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. We're not going to talk about those. Those were, thank God that social media did not exist back then.
Right, exactly. So make that Fort Belvoir.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go with that. All right. If you were president for one day, what would you change?
Taxes. I would lower them.
Lower them? Okay. I mean, I would just really get rid of them, but whatever. Okay. Huh?
That works.
Well, yeah. I mean, shoot, I get it that's how the government exists because of our taxes. Don't even get me started. Okay, we're not going there today. Not today, Satan. Not today. Not today. All right. I told you that they were going to get tougher and tougher. All right. What was the worst military duty station you were at?
Djibouti.
You went to Djibouti?
Djibouti or Iraq? Yeah, I went to both. So either Djibouti or Iraq. That's a tie.
Did you go to Chevelli?
No.
I lived in Camp Lemonnier. I was in Lemonnier.
Camp Lemonnier. That's
but
right.
I worked in Chevelli, so I had to go make that trek every day.
When were you there?
Well, I was there as a contractor, actually.
But what year were you there?
21.
Oh, yeah. I was there in 2006 before they have the nice facilities now. When I was there, we were still in tents. I mean, nothing was built up. It was in the early days of Camp Lemonnier.
So do you want to know the funny thing about that is that their tents still exist. And guess who lives in those tents?
I don't know.
Marines.
Oh, well. Oh my goodness.
I kid you not. Marines live in those tents, and I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm like, they deploy, and yet they're nice facilities, and they still embrace the suck, and that sucks.
Yeah, it does.
All right, because everybody else has like nice little trailers or whatever, and they have a big ass barracks for whatever. Anyway, but I'm like, oh, you guys are still in barracks. I mean, in tents, that sucks.
Yeah, there were no barracks when I was there.
Yeah, no, it was. They actually have a pool too.
Oh, so they've turned it into Club Med.
Yeah, it's almost like Kuwait.
Oh, okay. Well, when I was there, it was bare bones, and it was, like I said, it was not great.
Okay. What was your one regret as a were you end up being a battalion commander or
I was.
Okay. What was your one regret?
Mm.
You're retired now, so it doesn't matter. You can say it.
Oh boy.
See, you take
Yeah, so much for a rapid answer.
I know. See, this is why people will get in the spot where they're like, "Oh shoot, I never really thought about it," or actually, I would never say anything about it. But this is the beauty of the Battle Rhythm podcast. We get it out. We get it out of you.
I don't know. I don't know. That how about your next question?
How about the answer?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't have
fine.
the answer for that.
Fine.
I know. I could say it's classified.
Oh God! Of course it is. All right. What was your most memorable? Let's just say win, or the most memorable thing that happened while you were a commander.
Most memorable. Most memorable. Oh. Really fun dining in.
In Nogales, Mexico. Got it.
No, it was actually, well, yeah. See, I have a lot of memorable moments, but they weren't necessarily when I was a commander. But in Washington.
I think I would just say I just said commander because I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what everybody remembers, that they were, that's what they retired as, or that was like their one.
Well, but for example, like for example, 9/11 was memorable, but I wasn't a commander. I was, I was working on the J2 staff at the Pentagon in the Ops Center, they were still working on the Pentagon from where the plane had went in. They had fixed the outside, but it took them years to fix the inside, so you could still walk by where the planes went in. So things like that were very memorable. But like I said, at that point, I was a staff officer working in the J2. I wasn't a commander. So.
All right. So give us some unclassified secrets here. Is it true that there is a train that goes underneath the Pentagon that takes you back over to the other side?
Yes.
It's connected to Congress, right? I mean, this stuff, you can find this stuff on the History Channel.
Hey.
It's unclassified. All right. If there was one military leader throughout history that you could meet, who would that be?
General Eisenhower.
Funny. Have you been to his house?
Not his house, but I've been to his presidential library in Abilene. I haven't been to the farm in Gettysburg, but yeah, I'm a big Eisenhower. That was an easy question. He's probably one of the most brilliant leaders we've ever had.
I'm talking about the house he was born in.
Well, that was in. Oh yes, I've been to his house. Yes, it's there at the Presidential Archives. His house is right there by the railroad tracks. Yes, I have been in his house where he was born, along with, I think he had 5 brothers.
Where was it?
Abilene, Kansas.
Dwight D. Eisenhower?
Yes.
Eisenhower was born in Denison, Texas.
No, I think it was Abilene, Kansas.
I don't think so.
I mean, well, I mean, you could be right about that. I mean, well, put it this way: he spent a lot of time in Abilene because that's where his family, because that's where he put his presidential library. So maybe technically he was born in Texas, but he grew up in Abilene.
Yeah, well, Abilene's still Texas, but yeah, he actually was born in Denison, Texas.
Oh, well, they must have.
Yeah.
They must have moved. Well, I was going to say, they must have moved to Abilene early in his life because they make a big to-do about the house in Abilene. But now I'm going to have to look that up just because
Yep. So here, let me show you this. And thanks to our friends at Wikipedia that gives us this information because it's so.
And being just a few days past the invasion of Normandy.
That's right.
You remember Eisenhower.
All right. Eisenhower birthplace state historic site. It's located at 609 South Lamar Avenue in Denison, Grayson County in the U.S. state of Texas.
Does
President
it
ID
say
Eisenhower.
say when they moved to Kansas?
Let's see. Background. Military. 1955. No. So let's see if it says
Yeah, you guys,
residences of presidents. It does not.
because like I said, because he went to great pains to put his presidential library in Abilene.
Yeah.
And they've got the family house there and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's where he was born, right there. See, birthplace. Boom, right there.
Oh no, I believe you. I just it doesn't strike me that he was there for very long because, like I said, But anyway.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so now you have some digging to do. So I'm disappointed
do.
that you did not know that because you live very, very close to Denison, Texas, and you can go right over. It's right over there. There,
That's right.
I'm just saying.
I'll have to check it out because that was an easy rapid fire.
Okay, all right, that was pretty easy. All right, let's see. I had a question as soon as you said something. I completely just spaced it. You know, it's one of those days. Like I'm just so disappointed that you didn't know about that. All right, if you had the choice of actually having President Reagan, or Eisenhower as presidents, who would you take?
Oh boy, I like both of them.
Yeah, but they're both running for president. You can only choose one.
Well, I would say Reagan because looking forward, Eisenhower had already won World War II and Reagan won the Cold War. So I'd have to pick Reagan, but I like both of them.
The actor?
I'll pick Reagan if I have to.
All right. Well.
Because I'm looking forward. We had a Cold War to win.
Yeah, we did win it. All right. What's your favorite book?
Oh, gosh, wow. I have lots of favorite books.
Okay, one that stands out to you.
Let me see. Probably Washington's autobiography.
George Washington?
Yeah, George Washington. I just and the only reason I say that is because I just read that a couple of months ago.
Of course, it's gonna stand out. It was just the low pick fruit right there.
Latest in my brain.
Yeah, that's a low picking fruit on that one.
Right.
All right. Well, let's see. A couple more questions here. So I told you that we're gonna get harder as time goes by. Do you know how many past presidents have been members of the VFW?
Okay, so I'm thinking out loud. Let me see. Truman, Eisenhower. I would say 5.
Is that your final answer?
Well, now when you ask it like that, not necessarily. All right, you've got Truman, Eisenhower, 6.
Strike 2.
Strike 2?
Yep.
4.
Strike 3. All right, there were eight American presidents that were members of the VFW. Those were Teddy Roosevelt,
right?
Harry Truman,
right?
Dwight Eisenhower,
yep.
JFK, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, George H.W. Bush, and Roosevelt was the first U.S. president to join the VFW.
Okay.
Obviously, because that was right after.
Right after it was formed.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
Say
Not
what?
even. I said, isn't that interesting? I
Yeah,
said,
that is
not
interesting.
even George W. Bush is eligible for the VFW.
Yeah, I didn't realize Johnson served abroad.
Yeah, I didn't either until I read it. And the internet, is always
Yeah, the internet's always right.
exactly. So there it is. 8 American presidents and members of the VFW. Who are they?
Well, we're in good company.
Yeah, very good company. And obviously, there's a lot of Congress members right now that are actually part of the VFW. One being
Keith Self is a part of the Frisco one.
who's that?
Keith Self, Congressman.
Yep. Another representative, I believe, is Dan Crenshaw.
Yes.
Out of District 17. Shout out to District 17, who is Marcy Phillips is the district commander down there. I believe. I think she's still commander. Yeah, but he's out of his post, her post. Her district. So he's there. But look at that. Super cool to see these things, and I don't know. That always.
That is cool.
Just see him in Cavs, except for Gerald Ford. I didn't realize that, but obviously Gerald Ford was World War II, along with JFK,
right,
and Bush, and I mean all these guys were pretty much all World War II. So that's crazy. Well, that's cool. All right, so let's see. Well, I got some more questions. I just some of these questions are okay. If you were not doing what you're doing now, as far as like writing these reports and stuff like that, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Traveling maybe.
Oh well, there you go. See, yeah. If I didn't have to work and I didn't have to pay bills, I'd be traveling too. I'd be like, I'm living where you at? I don't even know. Philippines, Thailand, I don't know. Somewhere where my buck goes, a long way. So that's what I would do. That's what I would be doing.
That was an easy one.
Yeah. All right. What is besides history? What other subject do you like?
What other subject do I like?
Yeah. That if you were playing trivia, what other subject would you be good at?
Oh, so I'd have to pick one. Well, let me see. Probably maybe sports.
Really? And okay, all right. Well, we could get some sports here. All right.
Mostly football.
Oh, mostly football. Well, that kind of blows, because I was going to ask you a very good question as to who is what
or hockey.
Okay. I'm gonna go with this one. What is the rarest baseball card that is always up for grabs, or sorry, that is very sought out and it's very expensive?
Well,
and I'll give you a hint. It's not Babe Ruth.
Not Babe Ruth. Ty Cobb.
No, from what I understand, he was very hated.
Oh.
But it is about around that era, I should say.
Around that era. So it's not Babe Ruth. It's not Ty Cobb.
And he was actually part of the original Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, I don't know about
1936.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Honus Wagner.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that. Okay, but I was going to say, do you know where the Dallas Stars came from?
The Dallas Stars.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's because of the single star that the Cowboys have.
No, the Dallas Stars were the Minnesota North Stars. And
right. They moved down here like in the 90s. I think.
But yes, that's right. That was a big deal when they left Minnesota. I mean, obviously, Minnesota's got the Miracle on Ice and all the hockey players, and they quickly replaced it with the Minnesota Wild. But no, the Dallas Stars were the Minnesota North Stars before they came down here.
That's right. I remember it was in the 90s. Like, was it
So there's a
YouTube?
there's a lot of Minnesotans who hate Texas.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people that hate a lot of things. You know,
Right.
I mean, I just heard the other day that the San Francisco Giants, right, used to be the New York Giants, right, and the Dodgers used to be the Brooklyn Dodgers, but what current New York team took that New York history and made it their own?
That I don't know. I don't follow too much of New York teams.
Well, neither do I, but I found this interesting because again, it's history, right? So when there's only 2 Major League Baseball teams in New York, obviously, it's the biggest market, right? So you have the hated 27-time champion New York Yankees, and then you have the redheaded stepchild who is the New York Mets, right?
Oh, I see.
So the New York Mets actually took the Dodger blue and also took the New York Giants orange and implemented into their uniform. So if you ever look, their hat it's not so much the Dodger blue, it's a little bit lighter than the Dodger blue, but then the orange that they have on the New York and then the pinstripes and stuff come because of the history of New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers. So they took that and made it their own.
Interesting.
Right? These little tidbits of unnecessary history. So, all right. I'm going to ask you some, I would say some pop culture questions.
Okay.
All right. Do you know when MTV was premiered? What year?
1983.
Very close, 1981.
Okay.
Do you know the first video to ever be played on MTV?
Oh boy. I don't know. The Beatles. I have no idea.
No, because the Beatles were no longer a band during that time. So actually,
well, yeah. Well, okay. So if it was a current band, I don't know. REO Speedwagon.
no, it was off the wall. Actually, it's Video Killed the Radio Star, and the band was called the Buggles.
Oh, okay.
And that song was actually then later covered by the presidents of the United States. The ones that sung Peaches, Millions of Peaches, they also did that song. So let's see. What was the first rap video to be played on MTV? And this is always a debate with everybody.
First rap. I'm not, boy. You got me with rap. I don't know much about rap. I wouldn't know.
Here's a crazy thing. It was not by a
rap artist.
It was not. No, it was not. It was actually by Blondie. So the song "Rapture" has like, it wasn't a weird attempt at rap. It was just like, they were just singing the lyrics, through the beat, and they considered that rap. So they claim that is the very first rap video to be played on MTV. But if you really want to go into it, the first rap video to be played is actually "Rapper's Delight."
Oh, okay.
So,
not to be misconstrued with "Afternoon Delight."
Correct. No, that was on Ron Burgundy, the anchor man. Way different. Way different. So, all right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to close out the show, and we're going to do our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week. So when we come back, stay with us. You are listening to the Battle Rhythm Podcast here on Voice of the People USA Radio and TV Network, VC Digital, and also on Patriot Radio. So when we come back, we will talk and close out our week And so please, please, please stand by, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Why do 90% of regulars say the Black Sheep Lounge just feels different? Is it the hand-picked cigars, the signature cocktails, or the warm, welcoming crowd? Let's find out what makes this place a true Denison gem. At the Black Sheep Lounge, we believe in celebrating the finer things without the fuss. Our walk-in humidor is stocked with premium cigars for every palate, from those discovering their first smoke to lifelong aficionados. But we're more than cigars. Our bartenders craft old fashions the old-fashioned way, rich, smooth, and perfectly balanced every time. What really sets us apart? It's the atmosphere. Picture low lights, plush chairs, and a community that welcomes newcomers and regulars alike. Whether you're looking to unwind after work, catch up with friends, or just enjoy a quiet moment, you'll find your spot here. So, swing by 127 West Main Street and see why the Black Sheep Lounge is downtown Denison's unique hideaway. Pull up a chair, light up, and raise a glass with us. You belong here.
I think I messed up. I thought all Harley shops were the same, until I walked into Texoma Harley Davidson. Trust me, this place is next level. Picture this, a place where riders are family, and the open road is always calling. Texoma Harley Davidson, right here in Sherman, is run by Kenny and his crew. Real riders who actually get what the ride means to you. From custom bikes and killer gear to award-winning service that's earned them the Harley Davidson Gold Award, this shop is as legit as it gets. They're not just selling motorcycles, they're building a community where you belong, whether you're a veteran, a weekend warrior, or just bike curious. And here's the insider move, swing by. Mention you heard about them on the Battle Rhythm podcast, and experience true hometown hospitality with a big-time selection. It's your next ride, your new crew, and your ticket to freedom, all in one stop. Texoma Harley Davidson, go beyond the ordinary. Let's ride.
All right, I want to thank our sponsors of the Battle Rhythm podcast, Texoma Harley Davidson. Thank you guys so much for your sponsorship. Also, EGA Construction. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. American Legion Riders, Post 231, the Missing in Action Post. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Also to Scott's Construction out of Alabama. Thank you so much, sir, for your support. And I appreciate you being a part of the Battle Rhythm podcast family. And so thank you very much for that. Also, a big shout out to the Black Sheep Lounge. If you're looking for someone to go and spend some time and just kind of like lose yourself and just in this awesome atmosphere, I tell you what, the old fashions with smoked with cherry, oh, so good, so good. And then you pair it up with a great cigar. It's awesome. So thank you, Nick and Ashton, for your continued support. And I will see you guys very, very soon. So I'm just hoping that they get to bring some hookah into their lounge, because I love smoking hookah. When I was in Syria for a year, we smoked hookah like 3 or 4 times a day, and it was so much. It was just fun. It was just a relaxing thing to do, and I wish. Sometimes I do wish I was back there, because life was simple. Being deployed, I just didn't have a lot of things to do, and when we did, after we were done with our work, we just go and relax and just spend some time with friends, and catch up on things from the day before, because you live together for 24/7, so it was that. So all right, so we've come to the part of the show, the segment that I'd like to call our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week is brought to you by Scott's Construction. Thank you so much for your continued support, like I mentioned. So our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment of the week is the LA Riots 2.0. Oh my gosh. What a hold on. It's coming. I want to premise this with a very, very awesome line from Heartbreak Ridge. It says, What a gaggle fuck. I'm sorry. It is. It's so. Oh God! It's just so dumb. I'm sorry. It boils. It just makes me upset about this whole thing. What do you think, Brenda? What's going on? This is just we've seen this before in the '92 riots because they ended up getting the National Guard involved, and also at that point they also called the Marines.
Right, but I think that there's even another corollary in President Trump's first term. The summer of 2020, where Minneapolis burned and they had rioting across the country. Apparently, at that time, the President Trump was getting what I would say probably not the greatest advice. He was encouraged to let the governors handle it and not get involved. Well, 25 people were killed, billions of dollars of property damage. Places like Minneapolis in Minnesota are still recovering from that. So apparently this time around, the president decided, I'm not going to let that happen again. And so he federalized the National Guard, which he didn't do until it was too late in 2020. And obviously the Marines are on standby because I do think there are indications that this is not organic pop-up protesters. It appears to be very much an organized effort. And so I do think that this time he's not going to let cities burn like what happened in 2020.
Right, which is just so dumb. Also, another thing that's going on right now with, did you happen to see that video of Maxine Waters, a U.S. congressperson, congresswoman, whatever, trying or demanding to get into a federal prison for I believe it's some SEIU.
It was an ICE detention facility or something. Apparently, what Maxine Waters does is like a lot of these people. It's performative art. Yeah. There's no logic. She's out there just. I think it's the only thing that she knows how to do. I mean,
here's the thing that she's saying. I have congressional authority. You have no authority.
Right.
What the hell is that? Congressional authority? It's like me saying, oh, you know what? I have civilian authority to come into your house.
Right.
That is the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
Well, and I think that she's not talking to you or I. I think she's talking to her base. Apparently, they like what she has to say. I mean, look at Texas, Jasmine Crockett. I mean, oh my God. I mean, embarrassing, but apparently there's a group of people that they're talking to because they're certainly not talking to you or I.
No, there isn't. And unfortunately, it's like blind leading the blind many times. And it's almost like, cheap.
Right.
Like a term. And, I guess us being military and being veterans, that the fact that we're able to sometimes smell, the manure that's coming out of these people, and it's like, really?
Well, and the interesting thing too is a lot of news anchors need to bone up on. They're all trying to figure out. I was listening to somebody today that said, "Well, how could the president?" How could he be? She was trying to say, how could he be over the National Guard? She didn't understand the concept of the president can federalize the National Guard, and then they become a part of a federal force, and they're no longer a state force. But it is some interesting lessons that the civilian population can learn about different authorities. And she wasn't quite getting how the National Guard works for the governor normally, but the president, when he federalizes them, just like when the president sends the Guard or the reserves off to war, they have to be federalized. But it is But I think the American public is going to get some lessons on authorities, because the news people are going to have to explain it, because there's an awful lot of misinformation, shall we say, going on about Marines and the National Guard, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. You got something to explain to do, Lucy. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things. Is like, but what really just makes me upset, and I told you, I'm not very political when it comes down to the show, but when you see things like this of our American society, like, it becomes almost like a laughing stock to the rest of the world. And for us, that we were able to, that we went there and defended things like this, it's like kind of like a slap in the face, being like, holy schneck, like, we lost so many lives, and we with so many months away from our family, for somebody to feel so entitled to go into a federal prison just because you have quote unquote congressional authority. You have no authority over nothing. I'm sorry. That is dumb. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And you may agree or disagree with me on this one, but I'm sorry.
No, I agree. And like I said, a lot of this is performative art. It has nothing to do with policy. Even, I mean, it's all about riling up her base and actually what's really, I think there's a more sinister attempt. I think they're trying to continue ginning up resentment towards ICE. I mean, this all goes back to the defund the police movement, defund ICE. I mean, it's why you have ICE officers now that need to wear masks, because they've been so demonized that that they're looking to make the crazies do their dirty work for them.
Well, you remember what happened back in 2020, or it was 1920. Anyway, when Seattle, there was a section of the city that was lawless.
The Chaz, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and it was like, that was a disaster. And then even like Minneapolis, I believe, that like all defund the police. They had like no police department. Next thing you know, it's like.
And that's what I think President Trump isn't going to allow to happen this time. And I think partly though too, that's why they're getting more shrill, because Gavin Newsom tried to sue Trump, saying he didn't have the authority to literally to federalize the National Guard. Well, last I heard, I think that was promptly thrown out of court, because of course the president has the authority
yes,
to federalize the National Guard, but
he definitely does. Okay, so let me Miss I know history, and I know this thing. I'm going to ask you a couple questions now, and we're going to go rapid fire 2.0. All right. You just mentioned Gavin Newsom,
right?
Do you know who he's related to?
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, via thing. Now, let's go a little bit further in California politics and/or California history, shall we?
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay. California has been under fire for the last, not like literal fire, but I mean, although they do suffer a lot of wildfires, but they have been under question for the last several years in regards to a major project that was going to bring LA and San Francisco closer together via a high-speed rail.
Right.
High-speed rail.
Right.
This has been going on for about 10 years.
Right. Wasting billions of dollars.
Right. So, do you happen to know who won that original contract?
Who? You mean a company, or?
Yes, the company, and who ran it. You don't have to give me the name of the company. Do you know who ran that company?
No.
Huh. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We just mentioned Gavin Newsom.
Right.
It was Nancy
Probably
Pelosi's,
something related to him. What?
It was Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Yeah,
Who was actually Gavin Newsom's uncle. That's
right.
How he's related to her. Okay.
Right. Yeah. No surprise there. That
right.
No surprise. Corruption galore.
Right. So, hold on, not done yet. Do you know who he then sold that contract to?
Gavin Newsom?
No, Dianne Feinstein.
Dianne Feinstein. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Right.
the husband, Dianne
The San
Feinstein's husband.
Francisco Democrats. Got it.
hmm But then somehow, some way or another, guess who he sold it to? That's right. He sold it back to Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I think, once again, the president wants to turn all that off because, yeah, there was nothing ever, not much was built, and they all just enriched themselves.
Exactly. So if anybody's following the money here, it's basically just a money laundering scheme.
Yeah, they're grifters.
Right. So and the people that suffered are the people that were displaced and or were bought out by the companies to leave their homes of generations, right? And I can tell you firsthand because my wife lived in a little town called Corcoran, California. So if you're familiar with Corcoran, California, that is where Corcoran State Prison is at. Corcoran State Prison number 1 and 2. Very famous because that's where you'll remember this name, Sirhan resides, who is the person who shot Bobby Kennedy. Also, another gentleman by the name of Charles Manson used to reside there until his passing, obviously. And then there's several. The Night Stalker, I believe, Richard Ramirez is also in Corcoran. So there are other high profile celebrities. Richard Ramirez was they called him the Night Stalker in California. He was terrorizing a lot of women during the late 80s, early 90s, I believe, where he was going in and committing heinous crimes against them. So he's there, but that's where she lived. That's where she grew up. So obviously there is a railroad station there, and there's actually a railroad tracks and everything. So they were going to expand on those railroad tracks and actually make the bullet train through there, or the high-speed rail. Well, they bought out farms and people's homes that were all throughout, right next to the rail, so they can go ahead and build these. So in the last, I believe this thing has been going on for, I want to say from anywhere from 10 to 15 years that's been in the books of the project. In those 10 to 15 years, do you know how many bridges they have built?
Probably very few, or yeah,
two. They have built 2. So it saddens me of the fact that people that were there in these homes, in these ranches, or these little farms, generations were displaced and taken away from their homes, bought out at pennies on the dollar for the the quote unquote high speed rail to blah, blah, modernize, blah, 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 whatever. That's that's being questioned right now, and I hate that. I hate the fact that they ended up doing that, and unfortunately, it's part again, it's part of their history. Do I? Obviously, we have to live with it. We have to embrace it, but at some point, there's nothing you really can do unless somebody launches an investigation or a complaint or a class action suit, whichever.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's very unfortunate the fact that a lot of these people were displaced, and promises were made and promises were not kept, and that's what the biggest problem is, or lies. So, but yeah, that's your California history for today. So, all right, well, we actually went over our 2-hour mark about 30 minutes ago. The conversation was actually very, very interesting. I love the fact that sometimes it just happens, like we lose track of time with our guests because we're having such a good time, and when you have an engaged guest, it makes it so much better. I've had the pleasure of actually having a lot of people. I do want to make an announcement though. Next week I will have another guest that has been a previous guest in the show, and they are going to be here making a very huge announcement. I am not going to reveal who that is, so you'll just have to tune in next week to watch the episode, because if you remember, not too long ago, I had there were several weeks where I had a lot of guests that were going through some turmoil and also through some hard times. And so that's all I'm going to give you, but just make sure you tune in next week for this guest. They will be here. There will be a very huge surprise, a very big announcement, and I'm just excited the fact that that they called me to come back on the show, and it's going to be super, super awesome. So please make sure to tune in to the Battle Rhythm podcast here on Voice of the People, U.S.A. Radio and TV Network, BC Digital, and Patriot Radio next Tuesday, starting at 9 o'clock. And guess what? Next week, we will be on our very, very new platform through Voice of the People, U.S.A. Radio and TV Network, which is going to be coming on your TV screens through the Apple Apple TV. What do you call it? Apple TV. There's a channel there that we have, also on Roku TV, and also on several other stations that we have. So it's going to be coming through you. So if you're not listening through Voice of the People and or BC Digital or Patriot Radio, you can actually catch us on Apple TV, Prime or Fire TV, and Roku. That's the other one. And so, yeah, so we're going to be on. So we have our own channels on those stations. So we're going to be premiering our brand new platform for the Battle Rhythm podcast. And yeah, so it's going to be super exciting. And I hope you guys tune in next week for that. But first, I want to thank Brenda for joining us today. It was very interesting to hear all these stories. And I hope that, you guys go and check out her website, warandremembrance.us. And if you are looking for something, or you just love the history piece of it, I tell you what, this is probably one of the best people to actually ask them questions. If you have any questions, please reach out to her. There is a contact us button on her website, so she will be able to answer you the questions. Like she said, anything that's been 75 years and over, she is able to research. And anything that's 75 years and younger, you're going to have to wait 1 year at least for those records to be released.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, Cesar.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you very soon, because I am coming down to your post 80 250 73.
That's right.
Yes. I came out of memory. I had to remember it. I'll be down in post 8273 conducting an inspection. So
have a great time.
Yeah, so them books better be online, otherwise the failure. And again, you will be disappointing me one more time because you struck out once.
That's true. More than once.
More than once, yeah. You were like you had 2 outs. Oh. 2 whiffs. All right. So again, this is Caesar with the Battle Rhythm podcast. I will be back next week with a very, very special guest that you guys are just going to have to tune in to make sure who it is. But I tell you what, it's a huge announcement. Huge announcement. So come back next week. We'll be here at the same time, at the same channel, Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific. So please be back. We will see you next week. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us. And like always, be true to yourselves and get involved, people. Get involved in your local anything, because if you don't get involved, don't be another voice that just complains. Do something about it and get involved in your local communities, because that's the only way we can actually change anything around here. It's a grassroots campaign, and we definitely got to get involved, especially as veterans, if we want to keep serving. That's one way to keep serving. So be good to one another. See you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Brenda. We'll see you soon.
Right.
Thank you for watching. As we wrap up today's show, we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support and engagement means the world to us, and we hope you found today's content insightful and entertaining. This episode, along with all previous shows, is available on all major media platforms. Whether you prefer to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watch YouTube, we got you covered. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more listeners just like you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Connect with us on social media, where you can join us in our conversation and stay updated on the latest news and episodes. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you once again for being part of the Voice of the People, U.S.A. Radio, and TV network. We look forward to bringing you more exciting content in our upcoming episodes. Until next time, take care.